It's a really good point, Mike, on Arne Slot, and I think he does deserve, a lot of credit for how we're feeling right now. And how we're feeling right now is the jubilation over Virgil signing up, following up from Mo Salah last week. It's the feel of we could win the Premier League this weekend. More of that later. I'll be asking for everyone's sort of opinions on likelihood on that. But the fact is, if it's not this weekend, then it's likely to be either midweek or the week after. And all the positive feeling around this football club at the moment, like Abby says, it is not a little unexpected necessarily, but we weren't expecting it to go well so quickly. All the talk around the contracts was, well, they want to have a look, they want to sort of see what happens next. Well, they've seen what happens next, and it's winning loads of games of footy.
Yeah, I think it's. I don't want to do what is done down, but like I think everyone sort of forgets that we were all over the place last season with injuries, and we were starting Bobby Clark and McConnell and Jadon Danziger then everywhere in a title running still. Like we were still in that conversation till April, and then the wheels fell off because of it's all ground. Everyone knows there was tiredness, what have you. We'd already won a trophy. It was a big emotional season. But the whole, like we literally only bought Chiesa in the summer, so that whole squad has been there and done it up to a point. And like the new midfield, this is their second year, and it's got better and better and better. And yes, that is down to the man that came in, playing a slightly different style of football, using different tactics, whatever. But it's still the same quality group of players. And the most impressive thing for me is that he's just not got in the way of them doing well, and he's made them do well. But he's gone, I'm not going to come in and rip it up and do completely different things to Klopp. I don't want to be this new character of like I'm doing it my way because my way or the highway. He's basically used the best of what he's seen over the years of Liverpool, and then like made us more thoughtful in possession. We definitely still press, but we don't press as much as Klopp. And he's won the time essentially to do that, hasn't he? The first year is always tough, and if you're eighth after 10 games, and not where we were in Europe, it could have been a completely different conversation, and the pressure would have piled on him. And look, next season, who knows? But going into next season with that who knows question mark as a Premier League champion, losing to the eventual, what I would assume and pretty much guess is going to be the champions of Europe in the knockout rounds is hard luck. Where we get them, could have got anyone else. I think Villa got Bruges in the same side as that draw, and I was like, I'm looking at it going, we finished first in that group stage, and you finished third, and you had an easier run in quotations to get to where you were. And maybe the fact that when we played PSG might have been different had we, like, because the legs were falling off us. We have 5 games in 15 days. He's managed us through all of that with the uncertainty as being mentioned about the contracts, and he's never ever flapped once. Like, he's just been, it's sound. We'll just play and score and win. The flops or the perceived dips in our season from outside as well as in sometimes, like everyone's entitled to say things and stuff like that, but it's draws. We've lost how many? I can't, like, a cup game against Plymouth, the final against Newcastle, a quarter final against PSG, and Fulham and Forest. 5 games all season. Like, that's a good season. That's like there's the whole narrative about it only being the Premier League started a couple of weeks ago, didn't it, through the rest of the media. I'm just like, only the Premier League. How sad's that? Like, so I'll see how sad I'll be on the 26th of May when they're parading it round town with millions of us just absolutely going mad, showing our love for the fan, for the players and the manager. And it's been this steady build as well, by the way, that is like, it was week by week, and we just kept getting better and kept being more controlled. I think that's the biggest thing we'll all take from the season is it's never looked like it's being out of our remit, but we need to be 100 mile an hour to do this. There's a week where we beat Madrid and Man City 2-0, and I remember walking out the ground thinking that was just easy. And like, if you can do that in your first season with a new bunch of players who like are seeing how things go in quotation marks, you're doing everything right.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the manager and how he's managed big personalities generally, because I think that would have been a little bit of a question mark when he took over, because he's come from Feyenoord, and listen, I'm not saying there's not egos in the Feyenoord dressing room, and because these are top level athletes, who've achieved sort of great things and played in the Champions League, but it's not Virgil van Dijk, it's not Mo Salah, it's not people of that sort of status really. And when they'd have been analysing who to bring in, I'm sure that would have been part of it. And so they're looking at his record, they're looking at his style of play and how it suits the players, and they're looking at his coaching. But what they wouldn't have known, and what it would have been hard to assess is how he deals with these elite players and personalities, and how they react to him as well. And that's a big thing. And everyone always assumed, they'll get on well because the Dutch people fall out all the time. Do you know what I mean? Like, honestly, the worst the Scousers, the Dutch, honestly, they all hate each other, they're all sniping at each other and stuff like that. And Virgil's experienced that for the national team, and so there wasn't any guarantee. It might have been even more so. Virgil's thinking, who the fuck's this fella? Do you know what I mean? Like, would have known him for sort of quite a while. But I think a lot of respect goes down to the players, and especially Mo, who was one of the first, because he was on that pre-season tour, went a lot of the way, and I think how he embraced everything, all the change, deserves a lot of credit. But I think for the manager, how he's managed the big personalities and the big people in this squad, I think deserves a lot of credit. And he's given them a lot of freedom. I think he's given them a lot of freedom to talk and act and just sort of be themselves. He allows Virgil to lead and lead from the front in his own way. And there just feels like there's a lot of mutual respect there. But I think it's been a real lesson in, coming in and backing yourself. And I think Arne Slot's done that, but also how to... He hasn't had to stamp his authority all over the squad. There wasn't a need to do it, but some managers would have. We've seen that at other clubs where people have come in and they're throwing their weight around. This player's out and I'm in charge here. He's never had to do the big I'm in charge, Arne Slot, and I think the captain's probably appreciated that really, and he's always saying how good he is. He's not going, he needs to do this and do that. With certain players he does that, but with the likes of Virg, he's like, listen, he's world class. I don't need to keep his feet on the ground. I don't need to, be careful with him. I trust him to be professional, to lead and to do what's right for this football club. And it's felt like there's been a lot of trust and not a lot of ego from the manager's point of view from the top, and I think that's helped get the best out of Virgil.
Yeah, I think, being completely honest, one of my biggest concerns when it was announced that Slot was taking over from Klopp was whether he would have, I guess, the gravitas to get those big players on side. And that's no disrespect to him, to the Dutch league, but it sort of felt like, had Alonso got the job, for example, he'd be an immediate winner because of everything that he'd achieved in his career and his connections with Liverpool, and you could just see that he almost would have more credit in the bank already coming in, whereas Slot obviously had done very good things with Feyenoord, but he wasn't this big name. He wasn't, he hadn't had this incredible career as a player. He'd had a solid career as a player, but he wasn't sort of, I guess, the sexy option, I guess. I mean, even Amorim, because of the hype that was around him at the time, you almost felt like maybe even he would come in with maybe slightly more presence about him. But I think one of the first things that has struck me about Slot from his sort of very first press conferences was how much charisma he actually has, and it's in such a different way to Jurgen. It's less sort of in your face, I guess. He's less Jurgen at times could be a bit of a caricature, and I mean that in the best possible way, because it was so entertaining to watch. But I think Slot from the get-go has had a quiet authority and a quiet confidence about him, and I think that has really translated to the players from very, very early on.